In the quiet city of Qufu, an old man once walked the streets, a figure shrouded in mystery. Few knew then that this humble figure, Confucius, later known as Confucius, would shape the moral fabric of nations. But how did a man from such modest beginnings, born in 551 BCE, rise to such influence? His father, a respected warrior, died when Confucius was young, leaving him to struggle against poverty and uncertainty. From this obscurity, a great mind was born, one that would challenge the very order of society.
His father's death left the family destitute, but Confucius's hunger for knowledge pushed him forward.
At the age of 19, Confucius took his first bold step, daring to challenge tradition. He sought to work for the government, but was rejected due to his humble background. Unfazed, he began teaching not in the courts, but to ordinary citizens. His bold idea? That wisdom was not the privilege of the elite, but could be taught to anyone. With only a handful of followers, Confucius began his journey, a philosopher on the move, defying the rigid class structures of his time.
This was unheard of. He was democratizing knowledge in a deeply hierarchical society.
In his 30s, Confucius, with a few loyal students, travelled from state to state. One day, a powerful ruler, Duke Jing of Qi, offered him a high-ranking position. The offer was tempting, power and wealth within reach. But Confucius refused. The court was corrupt, and he would not taint his integrity. This act of defiance set him apart. In a world where ambition often overruled morality, Confucius chose the harder path. He once told his followers, "The superior man understands righteousness. The inferior man understands profit." He lived by this maxim even as it cost him much-needed security.
Confucius's rejection of Duke Jing's offer is often seen as a defining moment in his philosophy.
Not all were pleased with Confucius's rising influence. In 497 BCE, after returning to his home state of Lu, he faced opposition from local officials who saw his teachings as a threat. They conspired against him, forcing Confucius and his disciples into exile. For 14 years, Confucius wandered, often facing danger and uncertainty. He was mocked, turned away from courts, and nearly assassinated. Yet he persisted, never faltering in his mission to spread his philosophy. During these travels, Confucius honed his vision of a harmonious society, rooted in moral duty, respect, and virtue.
His exile was tough, but it was during this period that many of his core teachings solidified.
A famous episode reveals Confucius's wisdom in the face of conflict. While staying in the state of Wei, he advised Duke Ling, known for his reckless behavior, to govern with benevolence and humility. The court laughed at the old sage, but Confucius's words soon proved prophetic. Duke Ling's arrogance led to internal strife, weakening his rule. Confucius knew the cost of ignoring virtue. He had seen it destroy empires.
Confucius's warning to Duke Ling was a foreshadowing of the ruler's eventual downfall.
By 484 BCE, Confucius, now in his late 60s, returned to Lu. His years of exile had taken their toll. Though he longed for a final role in shaping governance, his time had passed. Instead, Confucius focused on his students, passing down his wisdom in the form of conversations, later compiled as the Analects. By 484 BCE, Confucius, now in his late 60s, returned to Lu. His years of exile had taken their toll. Though he longed for a final role in shaping governance, his time had passed. Instead, Confucius focused on his students, passing down his wisdom in the form of conversations, later compiled as the Analects. "What you do not wish for yourself, do not do to others," he taught. A simple yet powerful lesson that would echo through the ages.
This principle became a cornerstone of Confucian ethics and later influenced many societies.
As Confucius neared the end of his life, the world around him still struggled with war, chaos and corruption. He knew his work was incomplete, but he believed in the endurance of his ideas. In 479 BCE, Confucius passed away, surrounded by his disciples who mourned the loss of their master. But the man who had once been dismissed as a wandering teacher would, centuries later, become revered as China's greatest philosopher. The sage who had once been rejected by rulers was now worshipped by emperors. Yet, in his heart, Confucius had always known the truth. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And his journey, though fraught with hardship, would continue to inspire countless souls long after his voice had faded. If you liked this content, you may enjoy this video on the entire history of China in less than 20 minutes.